Hi everybody, Julie Ebersol for EllenHudson.com, and in this video I'm going to be sharing some ideas for incorporating black and white animal prints using the abstract spots from our modern graphics paper pack with floral images. I'm going to load a quarter sheet of Neenah Solar White into my Misty Stamp Positioning tool and then grab the stem that has all the leaves on it from the Rustic Botanicals set. And I'm going to position that just a little bit, maybe about an inch from the left-hand side of that panel, and ink up with Avery Elle Lemongrass Pigment Ink. And I wanted to create a variated shade, almost an ombre effect. So I'm going to add some darker color ink, and this is Celery, also by Avery Elle, down at the bottom of that image. And then stamp again over the top, didn't move anything. And that's the beauty of using the Misty, is you can get that spot on right over the top. Now I'm going to take the tulip flower and ink up with Mama Elephant Bubblegum Pink, which is the same formulation as the Avery Elle pigment inks. And then to add more shading, I'm going to clean off the stamp and then add some Avery Elle Strawberry. And I'm just kind of carefully getting the bottom and maybe the left-hand side there of the stamp, so when I impress it, it looks like I have this very deliberate shading. And then to add even more intense shading, I grabbed Avery Elle's Cherry ink and went ahead and stamped that over the top. Now I wanted to create an angle on this panel based on the layout I'm using, so I'm just going to use my pencil and a T-square here, my ruler, to come in there and mark off the angle and grab a sentiment. So I don't want to remove anything from the Misty yet till I have it all stamped in place. And I'm going to use Brilliance Graphite Black to ink up Have a Beautiful Day, which I borrowed from Munda Magnolia. I'm always borrowing sentiments from different sets to combine with what I want to do. So it's kind of something you'll see me do every once in a while. So now that I've got everything inked and I did heat set it with a heat tool, I'm going to go ahead and use those pencil marks I made to trim that off with my Tonic Guillotine bypass trimmer. And then I'm going to go ahead and mount a piece of yellow scrap cardstock there to the back side. Just use some tape runner. That one's by ThermoWeb, and I love the compact size of the dispenser, and it's a dot type adhesive, instant. And then once I've got that mounted on the back, that's the easiest way I can get that mounted straightly onto the panel there. And then I'm just going to go ahead and trim off the excess. So it's a great way to use up your scraps. Now for the base card, I'm going to prep it by laying down some more of that ThermoWeb dotted tape runner there, so I can mount a piece of the abstract spots pattern paper. And then again, I'm just going to flip that over and trim from the back side, so I have a nice perfect straight edge there. And then I'm going to 3D mount the focal panel to the front of the card with foam mounting tape. And I like to remove the paper liners from the middle pieces, but leave the rest intact. And once I have that anchored down, as I'm sure where I want it to go and it's all nice and straight, then I can come back in with my tweezers and remove the liner from the rest of those pieces at the perimeter. And it would be hard to do that with getting my fingers in between there. But it's easy to do with the tweezers. And then I'm going to burp my Nuvo crystal drops, because I did not do that on the first card I made, and I ended up with a big splat of Nuvo drops on my card front. So I had to start all over again filming this project. So always burp your Nuvo drops on scratch paper just to make sure you don't ruin your project. Or you can make them in advance on your Teflon sheet and then let them dry and store them for future use. I had another idea I wanted to try, so I took my pearl white Copic marker, and I'm just using the super brush nib here and holding the pen very horizontally instead of vertically to lightly skim across the surface of the paper intermittently to create kind of a faux fur effect. And this pearl white color and also Copic Milky White is a great one for creating this kind of effect. And it's hard to capture on camera, but in real life it looks really cool because you can see that it's not just a flat white with the black spots, and I think it looks even more, like animal fur. Now to finish off this card, I'm going to do some watercolor using these images. So I'm going to go ahead and ink up with water-based markers. These are the Zig Art Graphic Twins, and I started out with my lightest color first, and I started with yellow and came in with an orange, and then I spritzed it with water and stamped it onto some watercolor paper, and that's Canson 140 pound. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to clean off the stamp before I add deeper, darker colors with more contrast, and spritz it with water to keep getting that watercolored effect, and just right over the top, adding more depth and shading by intensifying the colors with those impressions. I'm going to do the same thing with the leaves, lightest shade of green marker first, and then subsequent darker colors of marker, and until I've got it all where I like it. Then I'm going to use that pattern paper that I created. I cut it on the diagonal, and I wanted to mount my sentiment to the Misty on the diagonal so it would just float right above that line. So I'm using that as a guide temporarily and using my magnet to hold the pattern paper in place. Then once I have it mounted at the correct angle, I can go ahead and remove that pattern paper, go ahead and ink up again with Brilliance Graphite Black, and get that sentiment stamped into place. Now I'm going to finish off my pattern paper with a little scrap of black cardstock, because I think when you're combining these, it can be helpful to have that transition piece, and that's what that little narrow border is going to be. It's just kind of a transition from the florals to the pattern paper, and you could probably go without it, but I think it just kind of enhances the whole overall effect. And this is just kind of a fun trend that we've seen, and we thought we'd translate that from what we've seen in fashion and in home furnishings into a card. So now I'm going to go ahead and get that mounted in place, and then I can take the whole panel, add more tape runner to the back side, and get that mounted to the card front. I find that I really like using bold colors on the florals when I bring in this black and white pattern, because it is so strong and bold itself that it works the best. And I also found that I had to kind of pay attention to what they're doing in fashion and in home decor by deciding if I want that particular pattern to take a back seat and just be a small accent, or whether I want it to be much more dominant and let the florals take an accent. So that's just kind of a rule of thumb that I found has been very helpful for me when I'm designing the cards. We have more still shots available at the Classroom blog, and all the supplies are available at ellenhudson.com. Thanks for watching.